The maid came back to check on them. "You're very good with her," she said quietly. "She never smiles as much as when you're around." "How long have you worked here?" Jake asked. 5 years, the maid replied. "I've watched Emma grow up, that poor child. She has everything except what she needs most." "What's that?" Jake asked, though he knew the answer. "Love," the maid said simply. "Mrs. Victoria is always busy, always somewhere else. Mr. Richard barely acknowledges Emma exists. Sometimes I think he resents her. Like she's a burden. I'm just a maid, but even I can see that child is starving for affection." Jake's jaw clenched. "Does Richard treat my mother well?" he asked carefully. The maid looked at him strangely. "Your mother?" she asked, confused. Jake realized his mistake, but it was too late. The maid's eyes widened as she looked from Jake to Emma and back again. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You're him. You're the son she abandoned. I've seen the photos she keeps hidden. You look just like the little boy in those pictures." Jake put his finger to his lips. "Please," he begged. "Don't tell anyone. Emma doesn't know yet." The maid sat down heavily, processing this information. "That's why you care so much," she realized. "She's your sister, your real sister." "Yes," Jake admitted. "But she can't know. Not yet. My mother made it very clear she doesn't want me in their lives." "Because of Richard?" the maid said, understanding dawning on her face. "He's the reason, isn't he? He made her choose." "You know?" Jake asked, surprised. "I've worked in this house for 5 years," the maid said. "I've seen things, heard things. Mr. Richard is a controlling man. He watches Mrs. Victoria like a hawk. He controls the money, the house, everything. She's afraid of him." Suddenly, they heard a car pulling into the driveway. The maid looked out the window and gasped. "It's Mrs. Victoria. She's home. You need to hide." "No," Jake said firmly, standing up. "I'm not hiding anymore. Emma needs someone to fight for her, and I'm going to tell my mother exactly what I think of her choices." "Jake, you don't understand," the maid warned. "If Richard finds out you were here, he'll make things worse for everyone. For Emma, for your mother, for all of us." But it was too late. They heard the front door open. They heard expensive heels clicking on the marble floor. They heard Victoria's voice calling out, "Where is Emma? Is she still sick?" The bedroom door suddenly swung open. Victoria stood in the doorway, still wearing her designer dress and pearls from the charity event. When she saw Jake sitting beside Emma's bed, holding her daughter's hand, her face went completely white. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "How did you get in? You need to leave right now, before Richard finds out." "Richard is in Europe," Jake said calmly. "And I'm not leaving my sister." Victoria looked like she might faint. "You can't be here," she repeated desperately. "You don't understand what will happen if he knows." "I know everything," Jake said, pulling Richard's letter from his pocket. "I found this. I know about the ultimatum. I know he forced you to choose. I know you picked money over your own son." Victoria's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe for support. Tears streamed down her perfectly made-up face. "Jake," she breathed. "I'm so sorry. You don't know how sorry I am." "Sorry doesn't fix 12 years of abandonment," Jake said, his voice cracking with emotion. "Sorry doesn't heal the nights I cried myself to sleep. Sorry doesn't bring back my father who died heartbroken." Emma stirred in her sleep, making a small sound. Both Jake and Victoria immediately looked at her. Concerned, the little girl's eyes fluttered open. She saw Jake and smiled weakly. Then she saw her mother standing in the doorway, looking upset. "Mommy," Emma said confused. "Why are you crying? Why does Jake look angry?" This was the moment when everything would change, the moment when the truth would finally come out. Victoria looked at Jake with desperate, pleading eyes, begging him not to say anything. But Jake looked at Emma, at his innocent little sister who deserved to know she had family, who deserved to know she wasn't alone. Jake made his decision. He knelt beside Emma's bed and took her hand gently. "Emma," he said softly, "there's something very important I need to tell you." Jake's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Richard's letter burned like fire in his pocket. The truth he discovered was worse than anything he imagined. His mother was a prisoner of her own greed, trapped by a cruel man's ultimatum. But knowing the truth didn't heal Jake's wounds. It only opened them wider. For 2 days, Jake stayed away from the mansion. He couldn't face Emma. Not yet. How could he look into her innocent eyes knowing what he knew? How could he smile and pretend everything was fine when their entire family was built on lies and manipulation? But on the 3rd day, Jake received a message that changed everything. He was at work, delivering pizzas as usual, when his old phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Jake, please come. I need you. Emma is very sick," the maid. Jake's heart stopped. Emma was sick? He didn't even know the maid had his number. He must have written it down for Emma once. Just in case, without thinking twice, Jake grabbed his bicycle and raced toward Rosewood Hills. When he arrived at the mansion, he didn't hide this time. He went straight to the front gate and pressed the buzzer repeatedly. A maid he recognized opened the door. Her face looked worried. "Thank God you came," she said quickly. "Emma has been crying for hours. She has a high fever. She keeps calling your name. Mrs. Victoria is at a charity event and won't answer her phone. Mr. Richard is in Europe. I didn't know what else to do." "Where is she?" Jake demanded. "In her bedroom. Upstairs. Please. She needs someone who cares about her." The maid led Jake inside, through the grand entrance he once knew as home. Everything looked the same but felt completely different. They climbed the marble staircase, and the maid opened a door to a huge pink bedroom. There, in a massive bed surrounded by stuffed animals and expensive toys, lay tiny Emma. She looked so small, so fragile. Her face was red with fever. Her curly hair stuck to her forehead with sweat. When she saw Jake, her eyes lit up weakly. "Jake," she whispered, reaching out her small hand. "You came." Jake rushed to her side. He placed his hand on her forehead. She was burning hot. "How long has she been like this?" he asked the maid. "Since this morning," the maid replied. "I called Mrs. Victoria 3 times. She said to give Emma medicine and that she'll be home later. But Emma won't take medicine from me. She only wants you." Jake felt rage building inside him. What kind of mother chooses a charity event over her sick daughter? The same kind who chooses money over her son. "Get me a cool wet towel and the medicine," Jake instructed the maid. She nodded and hurried away. Jake sat on the edge of Emma's bed. He gently brushed her hair from her face. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. "Not feeling so good? My head hurts," Emma whimpered. "And my tummy. And I'm cold but also hot. Where's Mommy?" "She'll be here soon," Jake lied, not wanting to upset her more. "But I'm here now. I'll take care of you." "Promise you won't leave?" Emma asked, her eyes filling with tears. "I promise," Jake said, his own heart breaking. The maid returned with a bowl of cool water, towels, and fever medicine. Jake carefully placed the cool towel on Emma's forehead. She sighed with relief. He convinced her to take the medicine by making it a game, pretending they were brave knights fighting fever dragons. As Jake sat with Emma, cooling her fever and telling her gentle stories, she began to relax. Her breathing became steadier. Her grip on his hand loosened slightly as the medicine started working. "Jake," Emma said quietly, "can I tell you a secret?" "Of course," Jake replied. "Sometimes I pretend you're my brother," Emma confessed. "I pretend that I'm not alone, that I have family who actually loves me. Is that silly?" Jake's eyes filled with tears. He had to look away so Emma wouldn't see. "That's not silly at all," he managed to say. "I wish it was real," Emma continued, her voice drowsy from the medicine. "I wish you were really my brother. Then maybe I wouldn't feel so lonely all the time." Jake couldn't hold it in anymore. The weight of the secret was crushing him. Emma deserved to know the truth. She deserved to know she wasn't alone, that she had family, real family. But before Jake could speak, Emma's eyes closed. She had fallen asleep, her tiny hand still holding Jake's. He sat there watching her breathe, watching her chest rise and fall peacefully. Then Jake found the stairs leading to the 2nd floor. He climbed slowly, carefully, making sure each step didn't creak. Upstairs, he saw several doors. One was slightly open. Jake peeked inside. It was his mother's bedroom, massive, elegant, filled with expensive furniture. But what caught Jake's attention was a large antique dresser. On top of it sat several framed photos of Victoria and Richard at fancy parties, photos of Emma as a baby, photos of their perfect-looking family. But there was something else, a wooden box partially hidden behind the photo frames. Something about it drew Jake in. He entered the room quietly, his hands shaking. He opened the box carefully. Inside were old letters, tied with a faded ribbon, and underneath the letters was a photo album. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He opened the album. The first page showed pictures of him. Baby Jake in his mother's arms, toddler Jake taking his first steps, 5-year-old Jake playing in the garden. All the photos his mother claimed she had thrown away. All the memories she said she wanted to forget. She had kept them all, hidden but not destroyed. Tears filled Jake's eyes. She didn't forget him. She kept his memories. But why? Why keep his photos but refuse to see him? Jake flipped through more pages. Then he found something that made his blood run cold. A letter tucked between the pages. The paper was old, yellowed with time. It was dated 12 years ago, just days before his mother left. The letter was written by Richard. Jake recognized the name signed at the bottom. His hands trembled as he began to read. "My dearest Victoria, I have made my decision. I will marry you and give you the life you deserve. You will have wealth, status, everything you ever dreamed of. But I have one condition that is non-negotiable. You must completely cut all contact with your son Jake. I will not raise another man's child. I will not have a reminder of your past life in my home. If you choose me, you choose only me and our future together. If you ever try to contact Jake, if you ever see him, if you ever acknowledge him, I will divorce you immediately. I will take everything. You will be left with nothing. The choice is yours. Choose wisely, Richard." Jake read the letter 3 times. Each time, the words cut deeper into his heart. His mother didn't abandon him because she stopped loving him. She was forced to choose. Richard gave her an ultimatum: her son or her comfort, love or luxury, family or fortune, and she chose wrong. Jake's hands clenched the letter so hard it crumpled. Anger, pain, and betrayal flooded through him. His mother sold him. She traded her own son for a mansion, for expensive clothes, for a life of ease. But there was more. Jake found another letter underneath. This one was written by his mother. It was never sent, just kept hidden in this box. It was addressed to Jake. "My sweet Jake, I am so sorry. I am the worst mother in the world. Every day I think about you. Every night I cry for you. But I am weak. I am selfish. I chose comfort over courage. I chose money over my own child. Richard won't let me see you. He watches me constantly. He controls everything. I wanted to give you a better life, but instead I destroyed our family. I hope one day you can forgive me, even though I don't deserve it. I love you. I always have. I always will. But love isn't enough. When you're a coward like me, your mother, Victoria." Jake's tears fell onto the letter, smudging the ink. His mother did love him, but her love was weak, too weak to fight for him, too weak to choose him. Suddenly, Jake heard a voice from downstairs. "Emma, where are you? It's time for your snack." It was the maid. Jake's time was up. He quickly put everything back in the box, except for Richard's letter. He folded it and put it in his pocket. This was evidence, proof of what really happened. Jake rushed out of the room and down the stairs. He slipped out the back door just as he heard Emma's voice answering the maid. He squeezed back through the fence, his shirt tearing on the rusty metal. He ran across the street to the park, breathing heavily. His mind was spinning. His whole world had shifted. Everything made sense now. The cold rejection, the hidden photos, the terrible choice his mother made. Jake sat on the bench, holding his head in his hands. He now knew the complete truth. But knowing didn't make the pain go away. It only made it worse. Because now Jake understood. His mother was trapped. Trapped in a golden cage just like Emma. Trapped by her own choices, by her own weakness. And Jake had to decide. Would he expose the truth? Would he confront Richard? Would he tell Emma everything? The answers would come soon. But first, Jake needed to process this terrible truth. The truth that destroyed his childhood and shaped his entire life. His mother chose money over him, and now she was paying the price, living with guilt and regret. But so was Emma, an innocent. Jake couldn't shake off the feeling that something was hidden. Something dark. Something his mother was desperately trying to keep secret. Why would she keep Emma but throw away Jake? Why would she slam the door in his face but raise another child? There had to be a reason, a terrible reason. The next day, Jake arrived at the park earlier than usual. It was only 2 o'clock. Emma wouldn't come out for another hour. But Jake had a different plan today. He needed to get closer. He needed to find answers. He watched the mansion carefully. His mother's expensive car pulled out of the driveway at exactly 2:15. She was going somewhere, probably to meet her rich friends for lunch or shopping. This was Jake's chance. Jake crossed the street and walked along the side of the mansion. His heart pounded like a drum. The garden gate was always locked, but he remembered something from his childhood. There was a loose section in the back fence, a place where the iron bars had rusted and bent. He used to squeeze through there when he was 5 years old, playing hide and seek with his father. Jake found the spot. The gap was smaller now, or maybe he was bigger, but he managed to squeeze through. Scratching his arm on the rusty metal, he was inside his childhood home, inside the place that haunted his dreams. The garden looked different now, more flowers, more decorations, more expensive everything. But the big oak tree was still there, the one his father had planted. Jake felt a wave of emotions crash over him. He moved quickly toward the house, staying low behind the bushes, through a large window. He could see inside. The living room was massive, with crystal chandeliers and marble floors. Everything screamed wealth and luxury. Then Jake saw her. Emma was sitting on the floor in a corner, playing with the stuffed puppy he had given her. She was talking to it softly, pretending it was real. She looked so small in that huge room, so alone, so fragile. Jake's attention shifted when he heard footsteps. He ducked behind a large potted plant. A maid walked past carrying folded laundry. She disappeared upstairs. The house seemed quiet, empty despite its size. Jake knew he shouldn't be here. He knew this was dangerous. But something pulled him forward. He needed to find answers. He carefully tried the back door. It was unlocked. The maids probably left it open while working. He slipped inside, his heart racing so fast he thought it might explode. The house smelled of expensive perfume and fresh flowers. Everything was perfect, clean, organized, but it felt cold, lifeless, like a museum instead of a home. Jake moved quietly through the hallway. He remembered this hallway. He used to run through here as a child, laughing and playing. Now he was sneaking through like a thief. He passed several rooms, a dining room with a table that could seat 20 people, a library with thousands of books that nobody probably read. Everything was for show, nothing was for love. Emma smiled shyly. I can't tell you or it won't come true, but it's about you. Jake's heart melted. He cut a piece of cake and passed it through the gate bars. Emma took it and ate with pure happiness on her face. They shared the chocolate ice cream, taking turns with the same spoon through the gate. They laughed and talked, and for those precious moments, Emma forgot all about her loneliness. Then Jake pulled out the stuffed puppy. I know you wanted a real puppy, he said, but until you get one, maybe this little guy can keep you company at night. Emma hugged the stuffed puppy tightly. More tears came, but this time they were happy tears. This is the best birthday ever, she whispered. You're the best friend I ever had, Jake. You deserve so much more, Emma, Jake said quietly, looking at his sister with love. You deserve a family who remembers your birthday, who plays with you, who loves you. Emma looked at Jake with her innocent eyes. Jake, can I ask you something? Anything, Jake replied. Do you have a family? Emma asked. You never talk about them. Jake's throat tightened. This was the question he had been dreading. He couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. I had a family once, he said carefully. My father passed away. My mother left when I was young, about your age actually. Emma's eyes filled with sympathy. You were alone too? Yes, Jake nodded. I know exactly how you feel, Emma. That's why I want to be here for you, so you don't have to feel as lonely as I did. Emma reached her small hand through the gate. Jake took it gently. Thank you, Jake, she said. You're like the big brother I always wished I had. Jake's eyes filled with tears. If only she knew. If only she knew the truth. Emma, Jake said seriously, I need you to know something. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, I'll always care about you. I'll always be here when you need me. You're not alone anymore. Okay? Emma nodded. not fully understanding why Jake seemed so emotional. "I promise I'll always be your friend too, Jake, forever and ever." As the sun began to set, Emma had to go back inside before the maid came looking for her. She held her stuffed puppy close and waved goodbye to Jake. Jake waved back, watching her disappear into the mansion. He looked at the empty cake box, the melted ice cream, the deflating balloons. It wasn't much, but it was everything to Emma. And in that moment, Jake made a decision. He couldn't hide anymore. He couldn't keep this secret forever. Emma deserved to know the truth. She deserved to know she had a brother who loved her. But first, Jake needed to understand why. Why did his mother abandon him but keep Emma? What was the difference? What made Emma worth staying for? Tomorrow, Jake would find answers. Tomorrow, he would discover a truth that would change everything. 3 weeks passed since Jake and Emma became friends. Every single day at 3 o'clock, Jake would be sitting on the park bench across the street, waiting, and every day, Emma would run to the garden gate with excitement, her face glowing with happiness. For the first time in her young life, someone actually wanted to spend time with her. Jake learned so much about his little sister during those precious conversations. Emma loved to draw, especially flowers and butterflies. She was afraid of thunderstorms. She dreamed of having a puppy, but her mother said dogs were too messy. She loved chocolate ice cream but was only allowed to eat it once a month. Every detail made Jake love her more. But he also learned heartbreaking things. Emma slept alone in a huge bedroom that scared her at night. She ate dinner by herself because her mother had social events. Her stepfather Richard barely noticed she existed. The maids were kind, but they were paid to work, not to love. Emma lived in a mansion filled with everything except the one thing she needed most: love. One rainy afternoon, Emma came to the gate looking sadder than usual. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. Jake's heart clenched with worry. "Emma, what happened?" Jake asked gently, kneeling by the gate. Emma wiped her tears with her small hands. "Today is my 4th birthday," she whispered. "Happy birthday, Emma," Jake said, trying to sound cheerful. But then he noticed, "Wait, where's your party? Where are your friends? Your cake?" Fresh tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. "Mommy forgot," she sobbed. "She went shopping with her friends. I told her this morning it was my birthday, but she said she was too busy. She gave me money and told me to buy myself a present online." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. What kind of mother forgets her own daughter's birthday? The same kind who abandons her son. He realized bitterly. Richard didn't remember either. Emma continued crying. "He's in another country for business. The maids wished me happy birthday, but then they went back to work. I've been alone all day. I had nobody to celebrate with." Jake's hands gripped the iron gate so hard his knuckles turned white. He couldn't take this anymore. His little sister was suffering the same neglect he had suffered. History was repeating itself, and he couldn't just watch. "Emma," Jake said firmly, "stay right here. Don't move. I'll be back in 10 minutes, I promise." Emma looked confused but nodded. Jake ran to his bicycle and pedaled as fast as he could to the nearest store. He had been saving money for months to buy new school books, but books could wait. His sister's happiness couldn't. Jake rushed through the store, grabbing items quickly. A small birthday cake with pink frosting, for colorful candles, a stuffed brown puppy toy, chocolate ice cream, and colorful balloons. He spent almost all his savings, but he didn't care. Emma's smile was worth everything. He pedaled back to the mansion, carrying everything carefully. When Emma saw him returning with bags and balloons, her eyes went wide with surprise. "What's all this?" she asked, her tears stopping. "It's your birthday party," Jake announced. "We're celebrating right here, right now." Jake couldn't go inside the gate, so he set up the celebration on his side of the street. He placed the cake on a park bench, tied the balloons to a tree, and opened the ice cream. It wasn't a fancy party in a big hall. It was just 2 kids separated by an iron gate, sharing a moment of joy. Jake stuck the 4 candles in the cake and lit them with matches. "Make a wish, Emma," he said softly. Emma closed her eyes tight, her little hands clasped together. After a moment, she opened her eyes and blew out all the candles in one breath. Jake clapped and cheered loudly. "What did you wish for?" Jake asked. On the 5th day, something different happened. Emma was sitting on the grass, drawing with colored chalk on the ground. Suddenly, a colorful ball rolled out from the garden, through the gate, and onto the street. The ball rolled all the way across the road and stopped right at Jake's feet. Jake looked at the ball, then at Emma. The little girl had stood up and was looking through the gate, searching for her ball. Her big eyes were full of worry. That ball was probably her only friend. This was Jake's chance. His heart pounded as he picked up the ball and crossed the street. He walked slowly toward the gate, not wanting to scare her. Emma saw him coming and stepped back nervously. "Hi," Jake said softly, holding out the ball. "I think this belongs to you." Emma looked at him with careful eyes. She was taught not to talk to strangers. Jake could see the hesitation on her face. "It's okay," Jake smiled gently. "I'm just returning your ball here." Emma slowly reached through the gate and took the ball. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was so soft, like a tiny bird. "You're welcome," Jake said. He started to walk away, giving her space, but then Emma spoke again. "Wait," she called out. "What's your name?" Jake turned around. This was the moment he had been waiting for. "My name is Jake," he said. "What's yours?" "I'm Emma," she replied. "Do you live near here?" "I work near here," Jake explained. "I deliver pizzas. Sometimes I take a break in that park." He pointed across the street. Emma's eyes lit up just a little. "Oh," she said quietly. Then after a pause, she asked the question that shattered Jake's heart. "Do you have any friends?" The question surprised Jake. Why would she ask that? "A few," he lied, not wanting to make her sad. "Why do you ask?" Emma looked down at her feet. "Because I don't have any friends," she admitted, her voice cracking. "Mommy says I don't need friends. She says I have everything I need, but I feel so lonely." Tears began forming in Emma's eyes. "Nobody plays with me. Nobody talks to me. The maid just brings me outside and leaves. Mommy is always busy with her parties and shopping. Daddy Richard is always traveling for business. I'm always alone." Jake knelt down to her level, his own eyes filled with tears. "Emma," he said softly, "you're not alone anymore. I'll be your friend." Emma's face brightened like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Really?" she asked with hope in her voice. "You'll be my friend?" "I promise," Jake nodded. "I'll come to this park every day. We can talk through the gate. How does that sound?" "That sounds wonderful." Emma smiled for the first time, and in that smile, Jake saw himself. He saw the lonely child he used to be, desperate for love and attention. From that day forward, Jake and Emma met every afternoon. They talked through the garden gate like it was the most natural thing in the world. Emma would tell Jake about her day, her drawings, her dreams. Jake would tell her funny stories about pizza deliveries, about kind customers and strange orders. Emma started to smile more, laugh more, live more. She found a friend in Jake, not knowing he was actually her brother. And Jake found a purpose. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was protecting his little sister. But Jake knew this secret couldn't last forever. Soon, the truth would come out. And when it did, everything would change. Jake kept Emma's photo in his pocket everywhere he went, during pizza deliveries, during school. Even when he slept, the photo became his most precious possession. He would take it out and stare at his little sister's innocent face, wondering what her voice sounded like, what made her laugh, what made her sad. 3 days passed after the terrible encounter with his mother. Jake couldn't stop thinking about Emma. He had so many questions burning in his mind. Did Emma know she had a brother? Did Victoria tell her about the son she abandoned? Or did she erase Jake from her life completely, pretending he never existed? Jake needed answers, but he couldn't just walk up to the mansion and ring the doorbell again. His mother made it very clear that she wanted nothing to do with him. If he tried to approach directly, she might call the police. She might say he was harassing her family. So Jake came up with a plan. He would watch the mansion from a distance. He would learn Emma's routine. He would find a way to meet her without his mother knowing. The next morning, instead of going to school, Jake took his bicycle and rode to Rosewood Hills. He found a small park across the street from his mother's mansion. The park had benches and trees that gave him a perfect hiding spot. From there, he could see the mansion clearly without being noticed. Jake sat on a bench, pretending to read a book, but his eyes never left the mansion gates. Hours passed. The morning turned into afternoon. Jake's stomach growled with hunger. But he didn't leave, he had to see Emma. Finally, at 3 o'clock, the mansion's front door opened. A young woman in a maid's uniform walked out, holding the hand of a small girl with curly hair. Jake's heart jumped. It was Emma, his little sister. He recognized her immediately from the photo. Emma wore a beautiful pink dress with white shoes. Her curly hair was tied with a ribbon. She looked like a little princess, but something was wrong. Even from across the street, Jake could see that Emma looked sad. Her head was down, her shoulders slumped. She walked slowly, like she carried a heavy weight. The maid took Emma to the mansion's garden. Then the maid went back inside. Leaving Emma completely alone, the little girl sat on a swing. But she didn't swing. She just sat there, staring at the ground, not moving, not playing, just sitting in silence. Jake's heart broke watching her. Emma had everything a child could want. Expensive toys, a beautiful home, pretty clothes, but she had the same empty look Jake remembered from his own childhood after his mother left. It was the look of loneliness, the look of a child who felt unwanted. For 2 hours, Emma sat alone in that garden. Nobody came to play with her. Nobody came to talk to her. Nobody came to check if she was okay. She was surrounded by luxury but drowning in loneliness. Jake watched every day that week. The pattern was always the same. The maid would bring Emma outside at 3 o'clock, leave her alone in the garden, and come back at 5 o'clock to take her inside. Emma never played, never smiled, never seemed happy. She would just sit quietly, like a bird in a golden cage. "Dad, will Mommy ever come back?" Jake used to ask. His father would smile sadly and say, "I don't know, son, but I'm here. I'll always be here for you." But life had different plans. When Jake was 14 years old, tragedy struck again. His father was driving his taxi late one night. A drunk driver ran a red light and crashed into him. The accident was terrible. Jake's father died instantly. The police came to their small apartment. They told Jake the news. In one moment, Jake lost everything. He had no mother, and now no father either. He was completely alone in the world at just 14 years old. Social services wanted to put Jake in an orphanage, but Jake refused. "I can take care of myself," he told them. He was scared of orphanages, scared of being with strangers. He wanted to stay in the apartment where his father's memories still lived. The authorities finally agreed, but only if Jake could prove he could survive on his own. So Jake dropped out of regular school. He started working any job he could find. He washed cars, cleaned houses, delivered newspapers. At 15, he got the job at Tony's pizza shop. Tony was a kind old man. He saw that Jake was a hard worker. "You remind me of myself when I was young," Tony said. "Work hard, save money, and never give up." Jake followed that advice. He worked every single night, sometimes 12 hours, sometimes 14. His hands got burned from hot pizza boxes. His legs hurt from cycling all over the city. But he never complained. He saved every penny. He rented the cheapest room he could find. He ate the leftover pizzas that customers didn't want. During the day, Jake attended a free community school. He studied hard because his father always wanted him to get an education. "Education is the only way out of poverty," his father used to say. For 3 years, Jake lived like this, working, studying, surviving. He had no friends because he had no time. He had no fun because he had no money. Every day was a struggle. Every night was lonely. He often wondered about his mother. Where was she? Was she happy? Did she ever think about him? Did she feel guilty for abandoning her son? Now Jake knew the answers. She lived in a mansion. She was rich. She had a new daughter. And she didn't want anything to do with him. But Jake also knew something else now. He had a little sister named Emma. A sister who might need him just like he once needed his mother. As the sun rose on a new day, Jake made a promise to himself. He would find out everything about Emma. He would protect her from the loneliness he suffered. He wouldn't let her feel abandoned like he did. Jake got up from his bed. He looked at Emma's photo one more time. "I'm coming, little sister," he whispered. "I won't let you grow up alone like I did." The broken past had shaped Jake into a survivor. Now it was time to use that strength to save his sister. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He lay on his small bed in his tiny room, staring at the cracked ceiling. The photo of Emma rested on his chest, rising and falling with each breath he took. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother's cold face. He saw the door slamming in front of him. He heard the sound echoing in his mind again and again. But mostly, he remembered the day she left. It was a sunny morning in May. 12 years ago, Jake was only 5 years old. He was playing with his toy cars in the garden, making engine noises with his mouth. His father was at work, and his mother was inside the house, packing suitcases. Little Jake didn't understand what was happening. He thought maybe they were going on a vacation. "Mommy, where are we going?" Jake had asked with his innocent child voice, running inside the house with excitement. Victoria didn't answer. She just kept folding clothes and putting them into bags. Her face looked sad, but also determined. A big black car pulled up outside their house. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out. His name was Richard, and he was one of the richest businessmen in the city. Jake's father came home early that day. He saw the suitcases. He saw Richard waiting outside. He understood everything immediately. "Victoria, please don't do this." His father had begged, tears running down his face. "We can work things out. Think about Jake. Think about our son." But Victoria shook her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't live like this anymore. Richard can give me a better life. He has money, he has everything. But what about love?" Jake's father asked, his voice breaking. "What about our family?" Victoria picked up her bags and walked toward the door. Little Jake ran after her, holding onto her dress. "Mommy, don't go. Please don't go," he cried. Victoria bent down. She kissed Jake's forehead one last time. Tears fell from her eyes onto Jake's face. "Be a good boy," she whispered. Then she pulled her dress from his tiny hands and walked away. Jake stood at the door, crying and screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, come back." But she never turned around. She got into Richard's black car, and they drove away. That was the last time Jake saw his mother smile at him. That was the last time she touched him with love. Jake's father tried his best after that. He worked 2 jobs to take care of Jake during the day. He worked at a construction site. At night, he drove a taxi. He was always tired, always stressed. But he never stopped trying. He cooked for Jake, helped him with homework, and tucked him into bed every night. Jake tried again, his voice shaking. "Mom, it's me, Jake, your son." Victoria's expression didn't change. She reached into her purse, pulled out some money, and threw it at Jake's feet. The bills fell into a puddle of water. Then, without saying a single word, she slammed the heavy door shut. The sound of the door closing echoed in Jake's ears. He stood there in the rain, completely shocked. His own mother, the woman who gave birth to him, the woman who raised him for 5 years, had just treated him like garbage. She didn't even speak to him. She threw money at his feet like he was a beggar. Tears mixed with rain on Jake's face. He bent down to pick up the wet money. As he did, he noticed something else on the ground. A small photograph had fallen from his mother's purse. Jake picked up the photo carefully. Even in the dim light, he could see it clearly. The photo showed his mother, Victoria, smiling brightly. She was holding a little girl in her arms. The girl looked about 3 or 4 years old. She had curly hair and big, innocent eyes. On the back of the photo, written in his mother's handwriting, were the words, "Emma, my precious daughter, 2023. Jake's mind went blank. He had a sister. A little sister he never knew existed. His mother, who abandoned him 12 years ago, had another child. She had a daughter named Emma. Questions exploded in Jake's head. Did Emma know about him? Did she know that she had an older brother? Did their mother tell her the truth? Or did she hide Jake's existence like he was some shameful secret? Jake looked up at the mansion again. Somewhere inside that big house was his little sister. A sister who probably had no idea that her brother was standing outside in the rain, crying. Jake made a decision right there. He needed to know the truth. He needed to meet Emma. He needed to find out why his mother abandoned him but kept his sister. What made Emma so special? What made Jake so easy to throw away? As Jake rode away on his bicycle, the photo of Emma stayed safe in his pocket. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. This delivery had changed everything. His life would never be the same again. The rain continued to fall as Jake disappeared into the dark streets. But inside his heart, a new feeling was growing. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was determination. He would find answers. He would meet his sister, and he would discover the truth about why his mother destroyed their family. The rain poured down hard on the dark streets of the city. Jake pedaled his old bicycle as fast as he could. His pizza delivery bag hung from his shoulder, keeping the hot pizzas warm inside. Water splashed on his worn-out shoes with every push of the pedal. He was already late, and he knew his boss Tony would be angry. Jake was 17 years old, but life had already made him grow up too fast. Every night he worked at Tony's pizza shop, delivering food to people all over the city. The job didn't pay much, but it was enough to rent a small room and buy food. He also saved every penny he could for his school fees. Jake studied during the day and worked at night. He had no family, no help, no one to support him. He was completely alone in this world. Tonight was different though. Tonight he received an order that made his heart beat faster. The address on the delivery slip said Rosewood Hills, the richest area in the entire city. Jake had delivered pizzas there before. Rich people lived in huge mansions with big gates and beautiful gardens. They usually didn't even look at him when they took their pizzas. To them, he was invisible, just a poor delivery boy. But this address was special. This address made Jake's hands shake when he read it. It was 47 Rosewood Avenue, the biggest mansion on the street. This was not just any house. This was the house where Jake used to live when he was a small child. This was the house his mother took away from him 12 years ago. Jake stopped his bicycle in front of the golden gates. The mansion stood tall and beautiful behind the gates. Bright lights glowed from every window. Expensive cars were parked in the driveway. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked rich. Jake remembered playing in that same garden when he was 5 years old. He remembered his mother's smile, his father's laugh, and the happy days before everything fell apart. His hands trembled as he pressed the doorbell. The sound echoed through the quiet street. Jake's heart pounded in his chest like a drum. What would he say? What would he do? After a minute, the huge front door opened. A woman stepped out. She wore an expensive silk dress and diamond jewelry that sparkled even in the rain. Her hair was perfectly styled. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like she belonged in a magazine. But Jake recognized her immediately, even after 12 years. He could never forget that face. It was his mother, Victoria. Jake's voice came out as a broken whisper. "Mom!" Victoria's face turned cold. Her eyes showed no emotion, no recognition, no love. She looked at Jake like he was a stranger, like he was nothing. For a moment, time stood still. The rain kept falling, but everything else seemed frozen.